Please be seated. So I want to ask you today, have you been thinking about your investments? How are your investments doing? And I say that, and that certainly does include the way we, invest such capital or resources we have that exceeds what we need to cover our living costs, a safe place to stay, food, clothing. What do we do if we are fortunate enough, blessed enough to have a little bit more? Where does that go and how does that go? But I want to say that investments are more than just stock portfolios, 401ks, bonds, property. Investments go to the heart of who we are, and that includes what we do with those properties and things, but it's ever so much more. The investments we make, the investments at all the levels of our lives, the investments that count. What do we put our heart and soul into? How do we invest ourselves? The people who follow a martial arts kind of way of living, you've heard the phrase kung fu. Well, kung fu literally could be translated time and energy. What do you put your time and energy into? You can talk about the kung fu, the time and energy of playing violin, of being a brain surgeon, of planting a garden, the time and energy that you spend. What do you put yourself into? I've heard it said that if you want to know what someone really values, what they really respect, what they really honor, look at their checkbook, look at their appointment book. How do they invest themselves? How do they offer themselves in this world in terms of the things of this world? Time, money, energy. Where does it go? How do you arrange it? That's the beauty of free will. You get to choose. You get to choose. If anyone ever tries to take that choice away from you, run away, get away. It's yours to choose. In this life, in whatever scope of years we may have, we get to choose how we engage, how we spend ourselves. And so we see that in this gospel story, this parable, where Jesus talks about the dishonest steward. I just want to urge you, don't go to the immediate, simple, apparent meaning. Jesus isn't saying go out and swindle people, okay? That's why I say, watch out for biblical literalists, all right? It'll get you off track. It'll take you away from the intended meaning. You've been blessed with, as we say in one of our Eucharistic prayers, memory, reason, and skill. So let's use them to interpret what's really going on here in this parable. And just to remember that Jesus' teaching tends to be at times shocking. He'll grab your attention. It's ironic to me that sometimes people would try to reduce Jesus to just sort of a bulwark of the existing order. I remember a service club that I would go to, and we'd have a nice little pledge and a nice little prayer. I mean, that's okay, but he really went around kind of shaking things up, grabbing people's attention, saying things that he wasn't expected to say, and doing things that he wasn't expected to do. And yet, it was wonderful. I mean, kind of like when C.S. Lewis talks about Aslan in his Narnia Chronicles, and someone says, a lion. He uses the image of a lion in his story for God. A lion, is he safe? Of course he's not safe, but he's good. So when it comes to Jesus and the established order, of course he's not safe, but he's good. He's shaking things up. He's grabbing people's attention. So in this attention-grabbing and perhaps troubling parable, we hear the story of a person, of a man whose current involvement, his way of living, his way of life is coming to an end. And he recognizes that, he sees that, and so he begins to look beyond the terms of that way of life to what comes next. So he will use the things of this life, the things that have been placed at his disposal, to build a new foundation for what comes next. And that's, when you get past the shock value of it, it's such an amazing and wonderful image of the life we all live and what we all face, because the things that may seem so urgent to us, so essential to us, the terms of our life, they've got an expiration date on it. They're going to come to an end. You think this is really important. You think, these recognitions are so important. Or your place, or your capital, or whatever it is so important, but it's all going to fade. It's all going to fade. Doesn't last. Can't take it with you. But recognizing that, we can use the things of this world. We can use the things at our disposal. The money, the time, the energy, the effort, the attention, the love, to build a life that lasts. Build a life without an end. That love is stronger than death. That the life we share in God is stronger than death. And it endures. Don't you experience that? Don't you experience that? Don't you remember the way maybe someone stopped and for just a minute was there for you and listened to you, helped you in a time of need? And years later, it's still there. It's like it's still in your memory. It's in your soul. It's in your heart. It shapes you. It's just the littlest thing. Something that took someone 1 minute to say or 10 seconds of their time can be transformative for a person in need. So to use the things of this world, to use the things that you have to build this foundation that saves, a foundation in God, a life that really lives. And so it's a reminder then how important, vitally important, eternally important, if you will, are the choices that we make, the ways that we invest ourselves. Not too long ago, I was talking with a friend of mine whose research has shifted to studying of the very oldest humanoids, of Neanderthal. And I asked him, well, what have you come away with from this? Has it brought you any surprises? And one thing that he said is, well, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be human? How do we understand that? How do we define that? It's a philosophical question we could talk about for a long time, but let me turn it the other way. It seems to me when people define others as in some way less than human, that's when things start to go really bad. That someone isn't living up to my standard of humanity. And whether that's because of race or gender or sexual preference or where they live now or what they're about, all those things, we start to put ourselves up or try to put ourselves up by putting someone else down. That it's okay to just play with them like they're disposable, or their votes don't matter, their lives don't matter, they're not fully with it, they're not fully human in a sense. Really, really bad things start to happen. And so that tendency to dehumanize, to turn a blind eye to the suffering of another, the poverty of another, the confusion of another, to uproot a person and send them to a place they don't even know where they're going, and to put them there just for just no humane reason. It undercuts. I'm just saying there's lots in this world that dehumanizes, that can make people feel less, not included, not cared for. So if we talk about investing ourselels in love, investing ourselves in a way that builds our relationship with God and with one another in His name, maybe humanizing instead of dehumanizing others. As we say in the prayer, tearing down the walls that divide us, tearing down the prejudices that undercut the full humanity that we're meant to share. Jesus came and said, what you've done to the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you've done to me. You've done for me. And so, in our use of our own investments, our own resources, we can do for those people that Jesus speaks of. And that includes all of us, because we're all really in poverty. We all are vulnerable. In a moment, our lives can change. The circumstances can alter. But in the midst of our vulnerability, in the midst of our own poverty, whether it's economic or distracted or unsure, confused by pandemic, yet we're not alone. That our Lord promises to be with us, and he calls us together into communities of love, but it's meant to be shared so we can invest ourselves. That's our stewardship, to use the gifts that we've been given, to invest ourselves in love to our Lord, who bids us come and follow him and care for all his creatures in love.